The small Earth spaceship landed softly on the purple surface of Iridia. Captain June Kim stood at the viewing window, his dark eyes fixed on the strange landscape before him. This was a big moment for all humans. After years of space travel, they had finally found another world with intelligent life. "Everyone ready?" June asked, turning to face his team. Hana nodded as she checked her breathing mask one last time. She was the team's language expert. Next to her stood Tae, a doctor, with kind eyes and steady hands. Daeho, their science officer, was already taking readings of the air outside. "The air has some oxygen, but not enough for us," Daeho said. "We will need our masks." June nodded. "Remember what we talked about. We are guests here. We show respect, at all times." The door of their ship opened with a soft hiss. The 4 humans stepped onto the surface of Iridia, the first people from Earth to touch this world. In the distance, they could see the gleaming towers of the Iridian city called Luminara. The buildings seemed to be made of crystal and light, reaching higher than any human structure. As they walked toward the city, 3 tall figures approached them. The Iridians stood nearly 8 feet tall with skin that shimmered blue in the light of their twin suns. Their eyes were large and silver, their movements graceful and precise. "Welcome to Iridia," said the tallest one in perfect English. "I am Science Minister Elios." June stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for allowing us to visit your world. I am Captain June Kim of Earth." The Iridian looked down at him with an expression that June could not quite read. Was it curiosity? Or something else? "Follow us," Elios said. "Our leaders are waiting." As they walked toward the shining city, Hana moved closer to June. "They learned our language from the messages we sent ahead," she whispered. "That's amazing." "Yes," June replied quietly. "But notice how he looks at us. I think they are not very impressed." The humans were led into a tall building at the center of the city. Inside, the walls seemed to glow with soft light. They entered a round room where several Iridians sat in a half circle. All of them watched the humans with the same hard-to-read expressions. "These are the representatives of humanity," Elios announced. An older Iridian with lines on his blue face stood up. "I am Head Minister Thale. We have studied your transmissions for some time now. Your species has only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, is that correct?" "Yes," June said proudly. "We made our first successful jump just 15 years ago." The Iridians exchanged glances. "We achieved that milestone 8,000 years ago," Thale said. His voice was not unkind, but there was no warmth in it either. "You are quite young as a spacefaring people," Tay stepped forward. "We may be new to the stars, but we are eager to learn and share knowledge." Thale nodded. "Yes, we will certainly have much to teach you." Over the next few hours, the Iridians showed the humans amazing things. They had technology that could move objects without touching them. They could transfer energy across great distances. They had even found ways to extend their lives to nearly 300 years. "This is our most important achievement," Elios said later, leading them into a huge room filled with glowing pods. "Our reproduction chamber." Daeho looked confused. "You don't reproduce naturally?" Elios made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Natural reproduction is inefficient and random. We design our offspring genetically, then grow them in these chambers. Each child is perfect, free of disease, with enhanced intelligence and abilities." Hana peered into one of the pods. Inside, a tiny blue form floated in clear liquid. The baby's eyes were closed, but it seemed to be dreaming. "They're beautiful," she said softly. Elios looked at her with surprise. "They are efficient. Beauty is not relevant to their function." As the tour continued, the humans became more aware of how the Iridians viewed them. They heard whispers as they passed, words like simple and primitive. That evening, the humans were given rooms in a tall tower. The 4 of them gathered in June's room to talk. "They think we're stupid," Daeho said, sitting heavily on a wow chair that adjusted itself to his body. "Did you see how they explained things? Like they were talking to children." They have reason to feel superior in many ways, June admitted. Their technology is far beyond ours. Hana shook her head. But did you notice something missing? They don't touch each other. They don't laugh or smile. The way they talked about their children, like they were making machines, not raising people. Tae nodded slowly. I noticed their medical systems are amazing, but they don't seem to have doctors who comfort patients. Everything is done by machines. They've lost something important, Hana said quietly. For all their amazing technology, I haven't seen a single piece of art. No music. No stories. June looked out the window at the perfect city below. We have a lot to learn from them, but maybe they have things to learn from us too. The next morning they met with the Science Council. The Iridians had prepared questions about human technology, clearly expecting very simple answers. When June explained how humans were working on ways to combine biological and technological systems, Minister Elios interrupted. Why would you integrate biological components? They are inherently flawed. Sometimes what you call flaws, we see as features, June replied carefully. Human creativity often comes from working within limitations. An interesting perspective, Elios said, though his tone suggested he found it merely strange. Your species still relies heavily on emotion for decision-making, correct? We value emotional intelligence alongside logical thinking, Hana explained. Empathy helps us connect and understand each other's needs. The Iridians exchanged glances again, and this time June was sure he saw something like pity in their silver eyes. You will grow beyond such primitive methods in time, Thale said. Later, as the humans walked through the city gardens, Tae looked troubled. What's wrong? June asked. I can't stop thinking about those children in the pods, she said. Who holds them when they cry? Who tells them stories or sings to them? June had no answer. The Iridians had everything humans had ever dreamed of. Incredible technology, long lives, a perfect city. Yet something essential seemed to be missing. That night, looking up at the unfamiliar stars from his window, June wondered what would happen during their year-long stay on Iridia. The Iridians clearly thought they had nothing to learn from humans. He had no way of knowing that in just 3 months, everything would change. The Iridians would discover exactly what these primitive humans had to offer, and the price would be higher than anyone could imagine. 3 months had passed since the humans first arrived on Iridia. June and his team had settled into a routine, spending their days learning about Iridian technology and sharing what they knew about Earth. The Iridians remained polite but distant, always quick to point out how simple human solutions were compared to their advanced systems. On this morning, June sat with Tae in the observation deck of their tower. The twin suns of Iridia were rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Beautiful, isn't it? June said, sipping a hot drink that tasted almost like coffee. Tae nodded. Yes, but have you noticed that none of the Iridians ever watch the sunrise? I've never seen one of them just stop and look at something beautiful. Before June could answer, the light changed. One of the suns flared brightly, sending out a massive burst of energy that made both humans shield their eyes. What was that? Tae asked, blinking spots from her vision. Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the city. The smooth, calm voice of an Iridian announcement system spoke. Warning. Solar event detected. Shield systems compromised. All citizens proceed to safety centers. June's communication device buzzed. It was Minister Elios. Please come to the Central Council chamber immediately, the Iridian said. For the first time, June heard tension in his voice. 20 minutes later, June, Hana, Tae, and Daeho stood in the large council chamber. Several Iridian officials moved quickly around the room, their usual calm replaced by hurried movements. Screens around the walls showed data about the solar flare and the city's systems. Head Minister Thale approached them. We have a serious problem, he said. The solar flare was much stronger than anything we have recorded in the past 1,000 years. Our city shields are failing. Daeho, always interested in technology, asked, Can't you repair them? The main systems will recover in approximately 5 days, Thale explained. But we have a more urgent concern. He paused, and June saw something new in the Iridian's face. Was it fear? The incubation chambers, Elios said, joining them. The shields there are completely down. The backup systems are failing. June remembered the room with hundreds of pods, each containing a developing Iridian child. How bad is it? He asked. Without shields, radiation from our suns will reach dangerous levels in the chamber room within hours, Thale said. If the children remain there, they will not survive. Then move them, Hana suggested. It is not that simple, Elios replied. The pods are connected to central systems. Moving them requires careful disconnection and transport. It would take days to move them all properly. Can't you just carry them out quickly? Tay asked. Even if it's not the ideal way? The Iridians looked at each other. Our physiology has evolved to be very sensitive to radiation, Thale explained. None of us could withstand exposure in the chamber room for more than a few minutes without suffering permanent damage. How many children are in those chambers? June asked quietly. 10,423, Elios answered precisely. A heavy silence fell over the room. June looked at his team, and he could tell they were all thinking the same thing. Finally, he spoke. What about us? Human bodies might handle the radiation differently. Elios tilted his head, considering. Possibly. Your biology is less advanced but might be more resistant to certain types of radiation damage. Tay stepped forward. She was their medical expert. I need data on the type and level of radiation we're talking about. Elios quickly brought up detailed information on a nearby screen. Tay studied it, her face growing more serious as she read. Well? June asked. It's not good, she said softly. Based on these readings, a human could probably work in that environment for about 15 minutes before reaching dangerous exposure levels. Maybe 20 minutes with protective gear. And after that? Hana asked. Tay looked at each of her teammates. Multiple exposures would cause radiation sickness. Symptoms would appear within days with repeated exposure. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Daeho understood immediately. If we made enough trips to save all the children, no human would survive, Tay confirmed. The room went silent again. The Iridians watched the humans with curious expressions as if they were observing an experiment. Is there really no other way? June asked Thali. The head minister shook his head. We have explored all options. We cannot move the equipment in time. We cannot shield the room. We cannot withstand the radiation ourselves. June looked at his team. They had come to Iridia as explorers and diplomats. They had planned to spend a year here learning and sharing, then return home to Earth. Now they faced an impossible choice. We need to talk privately, June told the Iridians. Thale nodded and the humans moved to a corner of the large room. We all understand what this means, June said quietly. If we help, we don't go home. Hana's eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was steady. There are more than 10,000 children in those pods. Children who will die without help, Tay added. Daeho looked at the floor. I have a family waiting for me on Earth. A daughter I promised I would come back to. No one spoke for a moment. They each had people they loved back home. Dreams for the future. Lives they had planned to live. We can't force anyone, June said. This has to be a personal choice. Before anyone could respond, the door to the council chamber opened. 6 more humans entered, researchers who had been working in other parts of Iridia. They had been called in as well. Min, the leader of the second research team, approached June. We heard. Have you decided what to do? We're discussing it now, June replied. It's a big decision. Min nodded grimly. My team already talked on the way here. We're in. June looked at his own team. One by one, they nodded. I think about what I would want someone to do if it was my daughter in one of those pods, Daeho said quietly. We all knew space exploration had risks, Tay added. June turned back to where the Iridians waited. We'll do it, he said simply. All of us. For the first time, he saw genuine surprise on the Iridian faces. "You understand what this means?" Elios asked. "The radiation exposure will be fatal." "We understand," June confirmed. "But why would you do this?" another Iridian asked. "These are not your children." June struggled to find words that would make sense to the logical, emotionless Iridians. "Because we can," he said finally. "Because they need help." "We will need a plan," Tay said, stepping forward. "Protective gear, rotation schedules, medical supplies to manage symptoms as they appear." As the humans began working out details, June noticed the Iridians watching them with new expressions. There was still confusion there, but also something else, something that looked almost like respect. Outside the windows of the council chamber, the twin suns continued to shine. The beautiful, deadly light fell across a city now facing its greatest crisis. And 10 humans from a distant planet, called Earth, prepared to give everything they had to save children who were not their own. The morning after the solar flare, the humans gathered in a large room near the incubation chambers. Iridian medical staff fitted them with protective suits, thin, silvery material that covered them from neck to feet. The suits would provide some protection against the radiation, but not enough to prevent the damage entirely. "These will give you about 20 minutes per entry," an Iridian doctor explained as she helped June with his suit. "After that, the radiation will begin to penetrate." Tay organized the humans into teams of 2. Each team would enter the chambers, rescue as many children as possible, then exit for medical treatment before another team entered. They would rotate continuously. "Remember, these babies are more fragile than human infants," Tay warned everyone. "Support their heads and move carefully even when you're hurrying." June looked at the faces of his fellow humans. Some looked afraid, others determined. All of them understood what they were about to do. "I won't give a big speech," June said. "We all know why we're here. Let's save those kids." June and Hana formed the first team. They stood at the heavy door that led to the incubation chamber. A red warning light glowed above it. "Radiation levels are now at harmful levels inside," an Iridian technician announced. "Timer will begin when you enter. You must exit before 20 minutes have passed." June nodded. "Ready, Hana?" She took a deep breath and smiled at him. "Ready." The door slid open. Together, they stepped inside. The incubation chamber was massive, with rows of glowing pods stretching in all directions. Emergency lights flashed, bathing everything in pulses of red. Many of the pods had warning symbols flashing on their control panels. "Start with the ones showing red alerts," June said, pointing to the nearest row. "Those must be failing first." They moved quickly to a pod with flashing red symbols. Inside, a tiny blue-skinned child floated in clear liquid. The baby looked so small and helpless. Hana pressed the emergency release button on the side of the pod. The liquid drained quickly, and the top of the pod opened with a hiss. Carefully, she lifted the tiny Iridian child. Its skin was cool and slightly damp. Its eyes opened. Large silver eyes that seemed to look right through her. "Hello, little one," Hana whispered. "We're going to get you out of here." June had opened another pod and was gently lifting out a second child. "How do we carry more than one at a time?" he asked. Hana looked around and spotted a cart meant for moving equipment. "There," she pointed. "We can use that." They placed the babies carefully on the cart, making sure they were secure. Then they moved to the next pods with warning lights. Time was passing quickly. 10 minutes elapsed, announced a voice over the speakers. 10 minutes remaining in safe exposure window. Sweat ran down June's face inside his protective hood. The room was uncomfortably warm, and the work was physically demanding. By the time they had loaded 8 babies onto the cart, his hands were shaking slightly. 15 minutes elapsed, 5 minutes remaining. "We should go," Hana said, looking at their cart full of tiny Iridian children. "One more," June insisted, moving to another pod with warnings flashing. They managed to rescue 9 children before their time was up. As they pushed the cart toward the exit, June's head was pounding and he felt slightly dizzy. The first effects of radiation exposure. When the door opened, a team of Iridians was waiting to take the cart of babies. Medical staff immediately guided June and Hana to a treatment area. As they were led away, they saw Min and another human named Sung entering the chamber for their turn. In the medical area, Iridian doctors gave them injections to help their bodies cope with the radiation damage. This will reduce the symptoms, temporarily, the doctor told June, but it cannot prevent the cumulative effects. How long before we can go back in? Hana asked. The doctor looked at her with an expression June couldn't read. You want to return, even knowing the damage is permanent? Of course we're going back, June said. There are thousands of children still in there. 6 hours later, it was their turn again. June felt better after treatment and rest, though not completely recovered. This time, they managed to rescue 11 children before their time was up. The work was becoming more organized as they learned how to move more efficiently. Outside, the Iridians had set up a temporary nursery for the rescued babies. Special machines monitored their development, replacing the functions of the incubation pods. Iridian caretakers moved among the tiny beds, checking readings and adjusting settings. Day turned to night, and still the humans continued their rotation. By nightfall, they had rescued nearly 300 children, but thousands remained. As the second day began, the humans were showing clear signs of radiation sickness. Tae vomited between her shifts. Min's nose started bleeding and wouldn't stop. Daeho's skin developed a rash of red spots. Still, they continued. When one of them became too sick to enter the chamber, they helped in other ways, organizing the rotation, assisting the medical team, comforting their fellow humans. By midday on the second day, Hana's condition had worsened. She was coughing up blood and her movements were slow and clumsy. You should rest, June told her when they finished their shift. Take a longer break. She shook her head. Can't. Too many still in there. An Iridian doctor approached them as they received their treatment. Your physical deterioration is progressing rapidly, she said. Your cellular damage is becoming severe. Do the treatments help at all? June asked. They reduce pain and extend your functional time, the doctor replied. But they cannot reverse the damage. June nodded. Then that's enough. The doctor tilted her head. I do not understand your species, she said. You are dying to save children who are not yours. Children, you do not know, June tried to explain. On Earth we have a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It means that caring for children is everyone's responsibility, not just their parents. But you have no connection to these children, the doctor persisted. We are all connected, Hana said simply, wiping blood from her lips. That's what it means to be people. The Iridian doctor was silent for a moment. I will improve your pain medication, she said finally. By the end of the second day, they had rescued nearly 1,000 children. The humans were all showing serious symptoms of radiation poisoning. Tae could no longer stand without help. Daeho's vision was blurring. Min was drifting in and out of consciousness between shifts. That evening, as June rested on a medical bed, Minister Elios came to see him. The tall Iridian stood awkwardly by the bed, his silver eyes studying June's face. Your people continue to surprise us, Elios said. We have never seen this kind of behavior before. What kind? June asked, his voice rough. Sacrifice without logical benefit, Elios replied. You gain nothing from this. June smiled weakly. We gain everything, we save lives. But you lose your own. Some things are worth dying for, June said. That's something we understand, even if it seems primitive to you. Elios was quiet for a long moment. I am beginning to think, he said, slowly, that we may have been wrong about what makes a civilization advanced. Despite his pain, June felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps something good would come from their sacrifice after all, something even more important than the lives of the children they were saving. As night fell on the second day, the humans continued their rotations, their bodies failing, but their determination unbroken. By the morning of the third day, the situation had grown desperate. The humans were weakening rapidly. June could barely stand without help. Hana was confined to a bed between her shifts, her skin pale and her breathing labored. Tay was using all her medical knowledge to keep the team functioning, even as she herself grew weaker. Nearly 1,500 Iridian children had been rescued, but thousands more remained in danger. At the current pace, it would take at least another week to evacuate all the babies. The humans did not have that much time left. As June prepared for another entry into the radiation zone, an Iridian he had never seen before approached him. The blue-skinned being was younger than most Iridians June had met, with bright eyes that seemed more expressive than others of his kind. "My name is Lavos," the young Iridian said. "I am an engineer. I have been observing your rescue efforts." June nodded weakly, leaning against the wall for support. "Have you come to help move the babies after we bring them out?" "No," Lavos replied. "I have been studying your biology, the way your bodies respond to radiation. I believe I have created something that might help us." For the first time in days, June felt a spark of hope. "What is it?" Lavos held up what looked like a thin vest made of a strange, shimmering material. "It is a biological shield, based on principles I observed in human physiology. Your bodies use certain proteins to repair radiation damage. We have nothing like this in our biology." "Will it prevent radiation exposure?" June asked. "Not completely," Lavos admitted, "but it should allow an Iridian to enter the chamber for about 5 minutes without suffering permanent damage." June's tired mind worked through what this meant. "So your people could help with the rescue?" "Yes," Lavos said. "I have made 50 of these shields. They are not perfect, but they will allow us to join your efforts." The news spread quickly among the humans and Iridians. Within an hour, the first team of Iridian volunteers had been trained and was ready to enter the chamber. Tay, now too weak to enter the chamber herself, briefed the Iridian volunteers. "Remember to support the baby's head," she instructed. "They are very fragile. Move quickly but gently." The first Iridian team entered the chamber. 5 minutes later, they emerged with 6 rescued children. They looked shaken but determined. "It is different than I expected," one of them told June afterward. "When I lifted the child, it grasped my finger. I felt—" The Iridian paused, searching for words. "I felt something I cannot name." Throughout the day, more Iridians volunteered. Government officials worked alongside maintenance workers. Teachers worked with scientists. The strict social hierarchy that had defined Iridian society seemed to dissolve as everyone focused on a single goal: saving the children. In the temporary nursery, something else unexpected was happening. The Iridian caretakers, who had started out coldly efficient, were spending more time with each child. Some began to hold the babies rather than simply checking their vital signs. One was observed softly singing to a fussy infant. By midday, Minister Elios himself had joined the rescue teams. He approached Tay, who was coordinating the rotation schedule from her bed. "I wish to help," he said. "What should I do?" Tay looked up at him in surprise. Just days ago, this same Iridian had dismissed humans as primitive. Now he was asking for their guidance. "We need more people who can enter for short periods," she said. "The shield only gives you 5 minutes, but that's enough to save lives." Elios nodded. "Show me how to properly hold the children." Tay demonstrated with a doll that had been made for training. "Support the head here," she explained. "Their necks are not strong enough yet." Elios carefully mimicked her movements, his long blue fingers gentle as they cradled the doll's head. 20 minutes later, Elios emerged from the chamber with 2 babies safely in his arms. His face was different somehow, less rigid, more alive. He brought the children to the nursery, then returned to where Tay was resting. "I experienced something," he said, his voice quiet. "When the child grasped my finger, I felt a sensation I have never known before." "Pride, maybe?" Tay suggested, weakly. "Or love. Those are the things that make a civilization truly advanced, Minister. Not technology. Connection." Elios was silent for a moment. "Perhaps we have been wrong about many things," he said finally. The rescue continued through the day and into the night. With the Iridians now helping, the pace increased dramatically. By the evening of the third day, over 3,000 children had been saved, but the condition of the humans continued to worsen. Deho slipped into a coma. Min's organs were beginning to fail. 2 others from the second research team had died during the night. June refused to stop working. Though he could no longer enter the chamber, he helped coordinate the efforts, matching experienced humans with Iridian volunteers to form effective teams. His skin was gray, his eyes sunken, but his mind remained sharp. "We need to focus on the pods showing the most critical warnings," he told a group of Iridian volunteers. "The babies in those pods are at the greatest risk." As the 4th day began, a surprising change swept through Luminara. Iridians who had not been directly involved in the rescue began to arrive at the medical center. They brought food, supplies, and offers of help. Some simply came to watch the humans and their fellow Iridians working together. "Why are they coming?" Hannah asked weakly when June visited her bedside. "I think they're curious," June replied. "They're seeing something they've never seen before." Indeed, many Iridians were observing with fascination as their fellows showed signs of emotions they had long suppressed. A nurse wiped tears from her eyes after a particularly small baby was rescued. A scientist laughed with joy when a child he had saved showed signs of healthy development. By the 5th day, the news had spread throughout Iridian society. The rescue effort was being broadcast on their communication networks. The strict, emotionless culture was shifting before their eyes. In homes across Luminara, something unprecedented was happening. Iridians were discussing the possibility of adopting the rescued children rather than placing them in the traditional education centers. The concept of family, long abandoned in favor of efficiency, was being rediscovered. The most remarkable change came on the afternoon of the 5th day. Head Minister Thaile, the highest official in Iridian government, entered the chamber himself. When he emerged carrying a tiny child, the Iridians present fell silent in awe. "I understand now," Thaile announced, looking at the weakened humans who had started this change. "What you have shown us is more valuable than any technology." That evening, as June rested between coordination shifts, Lavos visited him again. The young engineer had become a bridge between the humans and Iridians, spending time with both groups. "We have recovered nearly 5,000 children," Lavos reported. "I believe we can save all of them within another 3 days. June nodded, tiredly. "That's good. I don't think many of us have 3 days left." Lavos looked troubled. "Our medical team is doing everything possible to help you." "We knew what we were choosing," June said. "No regrets." "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten," Lavos promised. "You have changed us, June. Before you came, we thought emotion was a weakness. Now we see it as a different kind of strength." As night fell on the 5th day, the Iridians held a ceremony for the 2 humans who had died. It was the first time in centuries that Iridians had formally acknowledged grief. They spoke of courage and sacrifice, concepts that had been absent from their society for too long. Watching from his medical bed, June realized that they had accomplished something even greater than saving the children. They had helped a brilliant but cold civilization rediscover its heart. 10 days after the solar flare disaster began, the last Iridian child was carried from the incubation chamber. A young Iridian named Lavos emerged with the tiny blue infant in his arms, and a cheer went up from the gathered crowd. It was done. 9,876 children had been saved. The cost had been devastating. Of the 10 humans who had started the rescue, 3 had already died. The remaining 7 were all in critical condition, their bodies ravaged by radiation sickness. The Iridian medical team worked tirelessly to keep them comfortable, but they could not stop the damage that had been done. June lay in his medical bed, looking out the window at the twin suns of Iridia. The doctors had told him he had perhaps a week to live. His body was failing, but his mind was still clear. He felt no regret for the choice they had made. Minister Elios entered the room quietly. In the past 10 days, the tall Iridian had changed. His face, once so rigid and controlled, now showed clear emotion, concern as he looked at June, and something else. Something like respect. "The High Council has met," Ilios said, sitting beside June's bed. "They have made a historic decision." June turned his head slightly. Even this small movement took effort. "What decision?" "You and your fellow humans will receive the eternal light, the highest honor in Iridian society. No outsider has ever been given this recognition." June smiled weakly. "That's nice, but we didn't do it for honors." "We know," Ilios said softly. "That is why you deserve it most." He paused, then added, "There is more. The Council has acknowledged that we were wrong about humanity, wrong about what makes a civilization truly advanced." June thought about the cold, emotionless society they had first encountered, a society that was now changing before his eyes. "You already had so much," he said. "Amazing technology, long lives, perfect cities. You just needed to remember how to feel." Ilios nodded. "For thousands of years, we believed that emotions made a species primitive. We engineered them out of our society, focusing only on logic and efficiency. We did not understand what we were losing." A medical attendant entered with June's medication. As she adjusted his intravenous line, June noticed something surprising. She was wearing a small pin with an image of Earth on it. Many Iridians had started wearing them as a symbol of respect for the human sacrifice. After she left, Ilios continued, "Our society is changing. Families are forming to adopt the rescued children. People are creating art again, something that hasn't happened in centuries." "I wish I could see that," June said. "You will," Ilios promised. He touched a control panel on the wall, and the window transformed into a viewing screen. Images appeared of the city below. June saw Iridians holding children. He saw new decorations on buildings, bright colors where before there had been only sleek efficiency. He saw a group of Iridians standing in a circle singing together. "This is happening throughout Luminara," Ilios said, "and beyond as the story spreads to other cities." The screen changed to show a large plaza in the center of the city. Workers were building something, a monument of some kind. The design showed 10 human figures standing in a circle, their arms raised as if lifting something precious. "This will be completed within the month," Ilios said, "to ensure no one forgets what you did here." June felt tears in his eyes. He had never expected this outcome when they made their desperate choice. "The children," he said. "Are they all healthy?" "Yes. Thanks to your swift action, all rescued children are developing normally." Later that day, Hannah was brought to see June. Her bed was moved next to his so they could talk. She was very weak now, her once vibrant face gaunt and pale, but her eyes still held the same kindness that had defined her from the beginning. "Have you heard?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're adopting the children. Real families." June nodded. "Ilios told me. We did more than save them, Hannah. We helped an entire civilization remember what matters." Hannah smiled. "Not bad for primitives, huh?" Over the next few days, a steady stream of Iridian visitors came to see the humans. Many brought children they had rescued or were planning to adopt. Others came simply to express gratitude. Some stood silently at the bedsides, seemingly overwhelmed by emotions they were just learning to process again. On the evening of the 12th day, the Iridian High Council held a special ceremony. Unable to move the dying humans, they brought the ceremony to the medical center. The 7 surviving humans were gathered in a large room, their beds arranged in a semicircle. Hundreds of Iridians crowded in, and thousands more watched on viewing screens throughout the city. Headminister Thaley stepped forward. The most powerful Iridian on the planet looked different now, his face more expressive, his movements less stiff. "Today, we honor these beings from Earth," he began. "We called them primitive because they still experienced emotions, Because they made decisions based on feelings rather than pure logic. We believed this made them less advanced than us. He paused, looking at each of the humans in turn. We were wrong, he continued. What they showed us was not primitive. It was the highest form of advancement, the ability to care for others without logical benefit to oneself. The willingness to sacrifice for those in need, even strangers from another world. As Thale spoke, Iridian attendants moved among the humans, placing small crystal medallions around their necks, the symbol of the eternal light. From this day forward, Thale declared, the story of Earth's humans will be taught to all Iridian children, not as a tale of primitive beings, but as the most advanced form of intelligence we have encountered, one that balances technology with compassion, logic with love. After the ceremony, an Iridian family approached June's bed. The parents carried a small child, one of the first babies rescued from the chamber. We wanted you to meet her, the Iridian father said. We have named her Junha, to honor both you and your friend Hana. They placed the tiny child in June's arms. Looking down at the small blue face, June felt a profound sense of peace. The baby reached up and wrapped her tiny fingers around his thumb. In that moment, the gap between their worlds closed completely. 3 days later, June became the 4th human to die from radiation sickness. By the end of the month, all 10 had passed away. But their legacy lived on. 1 month after the last human died, the first diplomatic delegation from Iridia arrived on Earth. They came not with displays of technological superiority, but with a message of gratitude and friendship. They brought stories of how 10 humans had changed their world forever. On Iridia, the monument in central Luminara was completed. 10 human figures, cast in luminescent crystal, stood in a circle protecting Iridian children. At night, it glowed, with a soft light that could be seen throughout the city. The inscription at the base, written in both Iridian and English, read simply, "They called them primitive. They called them heroes. We call them our saviors." And in homes across Iridia, something new happened each night. Iridian parents held their children close and told them stories. Stories of courage and sacrifice, stories of Earth and its people. Stories of the day they learned that the most advanced civilization is not the one with the greatest technology, but the one with the greatest heart. The end.